Hi, this is day 32 of the Daily Spark questions. It's February 1st. We're in a new month. Holding this with my, this hurts right here. So I'm going to be lazy and just prop it down on the desk. You don't need to know this. So what is the question? Where does language sharpen experience, and where does it flatten or distort it? I wonder why this one's in here. Where does language sharpen experience, and where does it flatten or distort it? I don't know. Okay, there are different, as you know with anything, there's different levels, different frameworks, different dimensions. Like, what's our starting point with this question? In one sense, I don't know if language could ever sharpen direct experience. Language is always born of thought, which is like what we put on top of direct experience to try to make sense of it, in a mind way of making sense. So from that perspective, I'd say I don't think language can sharpen experience. And by sharpen, what does that mean? I think it means clarify. Nope. And then if we're not talking about like the non-duality world, which that's what these questions are really pointing to a lot of the times, because that's like the inputs I gave ChatGPT. One of the inputs. So let's think about it from just a regular sense, like relational world. That means we have something like a direct experience that we call the me. I am experiencing this thing. And then I want to describe that to someone, like try to get the feeling across using words, which is, like we always say, words we can't do it justice. It's like you had to be there, kind of a feeling. Then coming from a zero understanding of the experience, like the other person I'm trying to describe this to, there's no context, nothing. And then we just use language to describe an experience. They're coming from like ground zero of like, so any language I use will further sharpen that experience for them. It'll further clarify it from a starting point of nothing. So there's a building up of understanding to clarify something for this other person, where they started with no understanding of anything, no clarification on any experience, because they didn't even know the experience existed for me. So that's where my mind goes. It's like, well, what's our starting point? If we're talking non-duality, I don't know if language can ever sharpen a direct experience. It's only that muckety muck film we like layer on something. I heard somebody else say they refer to that as like adding a sticky note. Like the mind is always adding sticky notes on top of direct experience. And you know what a sticky note does? It's just like not the actual thing. Usually it's like a note describing a thing or, whatever. So I kind of like that analogy. So from that non-duality perspective, language, aka thoughts, the way we describe thoughts about a thing, are only ever sticky notes, like layers and layers of sticky notes on the thing. And then, I guess if we're not talking about that and we're starting from zero in a relational world, then from that perspective, we use language to add clarity, to sharpen things for each other, to say, oh my God, I had this experience. Do you want to hear about it? Here, blah. And then it gets so far in the sharpening and the clarifying, still never 100%. They'll never know what that direct experience is because we're two different people. They can get only so close through the way we describe it. And then they might say, oh yeah, I had that too. But no, it was still different. Always different. Even if they were in the same place, same time, same situation, their experience is always going to be different by some measure. So I really like this question because it's like really makes me think about where the starting point is. It also asks like, and where does it flatten or distort it? I would say that's flip that around. Like from a non-duality perspective, it's always flattening or distorting. And I don't like to use the word always. So caveat may not be always, but always. And then from a relational perspective, I think it can still distort and flatten experience. But maybe not, because again, the starting point is like they have no idea what my experience is. So all my words, they might be confused by my words, but they might get some flavor of like, oh, here's what that's about, I guess, which is more clarity than they had before. Gosh, this is interesting. I mean, I think it is. Because I think about today I had a lot of moments where, you know how I talked about the way I sometimes narrate or am too in my head. And then there are many other moments where it's like just like in flow. Today I had a very in flow kind of day, which I really appreciated since I spent like most of the weekend at the hospital with my mom, and like every time I leave the hospital and like the emotions just move through and I'm bawling, except today. It was a good day in terms of her health. If you want to, on a spectrum of good and could be better. So today, maybe it was better because I kept coming back to like, anytime I notice myself being pulled into future worry or past rumination about things, I just came back, just kept coming back and said, it was like a training my brain kind of day of just like, all there is this. This is all that matters. This is all that should be happening. And I noticed it when, like, being Sunday and me having a huge kind of busy week ahead and still trying to figure out when I can be at the hospital and doing things for my mom and, like, taking care of stuff at home, like, running my business, blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't do that anymore in this phase of life, in this second or third career, whatever number career this is. I'm like, I had to talk with myself and said, no, we're not doing the ho-hum Sunday thing and saying, oh my God, I have no more time left in my weekend. Wah. So I said, duh, you know how time works. First of all, it's non-existent. And by staying present in this present moment, time expands like a mofo, like, and then when I'm in the future or past, time goes so fast. So, since I know time isn't real, I just kept pulling myself back to the present moment over and over and over. And just what I was doing, like what was happening was just what I was doing, and what I was doing was just what was happening. And I just did the next thing that felt like that said yes to me. And then if it didn't feel like a yes, I just said, okay, not now. I'm doing the next thing. And so it worked. Man, today felt so long, and I fit in all these things that I was hoping to do with this time today, from business things, meal prep things, helping my mom with things. Spent hours up there today, and still here we are. I just feel like I have so much time to do this. So that's why is this related? I think because I was when the whole distortion, like where does language distort experience? when I noticed the narrating or the thoughts, like the thoughts that were in the form of language, words, then I was like, oh, thinking again. You know how you just do that exercise of like thinking, to like bring me back to the present moment. Have you tried that before? I feel like we've talked about it. Or I was doing selfing, thinking, selfing, and then it would just bring me right back. And that's where I felt like when I was in thought, I was totally distorting the lived now experience, the present moment. It was total distortion. I was pulled away. I noticed, like, when I was driving, I was like, and then when I would say, oh, thinking, and I'd zap back, like, the world came into, like, sharp relief kind of thing. Before that, it just felt like, oh, where was I? So that's kind of a fun practice. And it is a practice. Like, I'm retraining my brain. Still, after all the things of this journeyless journey, and here we are back at like training the brain to get to the present moment. And it's like, wait, shouldn't I have started with that? Oh wait, I did, like 10 years ago or longer. And here we are. So it's just kind of funny. So yeah, that's why I told that little story, because I feel like the language in my brain totally distorts direct experience. Totally. All the time. So what about you? How do you think of things like this? Like the thought, like language spoken or just language in your head? How is that sharpening experience? Do you ever feel like, I guess in some sense, I used to think by like figuring stuff out in my head, it was clarifying things for me. Now I'm not so sure. I'd really have to like feel into that in the moment of really trying to figure something out. Usually these days when it feels like I'm trying to figure something out, I have to stop and walk away. I'm like, I should do the practice like trying, like I'm trying too hard. Selfing, thinking, trying. I think that's a good one to add to my noticing. Yeah. So anyway, that's all. Bye.